Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is hautemesstom, and thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you are new here, this is Messmas. What I'm doing this Messmas is a month-long project where I try to use every single item of makeup before the end of the year. I started this project at the beginning of December, so I gave myself 31 days. I've already concluded that I will be failing this challenge, but I'm going to see it through to the end to just give it my best college try. But my channel is focused really on loving my collection as the way it is, being critical of new makeup releases, and I am in the middle of a 6-month no-buy, hence the focus on what I already have. That's why we're here, that's why we're doing what we're doing. So if that sounds like content you want to see in your feed on a regular basis, hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you here, and I appreciate likes on this channel. Also, I'm on Patreon if you want to support me there. I have pulled the 3 items that are brand new to this episode. And we're gonna get to it. Today we're gonna be playing with Subculture. If you are new here, there are certain sections of the video that I speed through when I prime my eyes, when I powder my face, because those have been consistent throughout the project. And I don't think I made this clear at the intro, because why would I have bothered to do that? Because, you know, you want to try to keep your intro quippy. Once I've used an item of makeup, I can't use it again until I've cycled through. So a lot of this stuff has already cycled through one of the videos. And if you're interested in seeing how this played out, I have a playlist in the description box below. It's in chronological order, and that way you can watch the project and hear my deeper thoughts, or my almost my first impressions on some of these products, because I have a lot of makeup, too much makeup, hence why I started this project. It's so pretty. I am having thoughts and feelings that this might be potentially Subculture's last hurrah. And the only reason I say that is because I also own this palette from Noctex called the Antiquities Palette. And if I were to hold them up next to each other, the color story is pretty similar. And this one's newer. I like the way it performs. I don't like the shimmers in this, but this is actually just mostly mattes. But there are some colors in here that you don't get in here. I don't know. I'm a little I'm conflicted. I'm not gonna lie. But we're gonna play around with it today and just see what happens. Per usual, I'm priming my eyes with the MAC Paint Pot in Painterly. Oh, guys, it's the 22nd. I'm no longer as far ahead of schedule as I have been, because I had been 2 days ahead of schedule, but yesterday, my friend Tiffany, who gave birth earlier this month, came over to visit. It was my first time seeing her since she gave birth, and I got to meet the baby for a little bit. The baby did not stay the whole time. He went home with Dad, but it was nice to meet the baby. If you're not new here, I'm like meh on babies, but I do love my friend, and I know that I had like talk about earlier in this project, like being a little bit on the struggle bus. Okay, sorry, I forgot that the original, I'm like now just like using these as get ready with me's. I'm gonna be using the shade Dawn to actually set my eyeshadow primer today. Now, if you recall, if you were here in 2016, this eyeshadow palette caused it was quite the scandal, really. I feel like for me, it was like the first big beauty community scandal that ever was. And this is from Anastasia, Beverly Hills, by the way. You know, I really forget that like there were people who weren't here for that. I know I like talked a little bit at the beginning of this project, or like some of the early days with this project, that I was like struggling a bit. Tiffany is like my rock, my person. I always am talking to Tiffany. Like up until she gave birth, we used the app Marco Polo, so we were sending Marco Polos back to each other like all day, every day. And then when we couldn't talk anymore, we would just text. Like we talked all the time. We are in each other's psyches all the time. So she gave birth, and obviously both Tiffany and I were fully cognizant that once this baby was out, our relationship was going to change, right? And what's it going to look like on the other side of it? But, you know, we can't talk as much. Tiffany's not available as much, and that's like the reality of the situation. Adapting to that switch was like tough. So anyway, I just have felt like my heart has been like constricted, like so constricted, and like I have all of these thoughts and feelings and tensions that are just like I've held here this whole month. And spending a few hours with Tiffany yesterday, like I can feel like the tension just like released a lot. It's not all the way gone, because like the tension is still there. The tension is from a lot of things going on in my life. I'm gonna be making a video on Patreon, like talking a little bit more about my feelings, like, so it'll be a little bit more personal, but also it's actually I'm gonna reflect on this project a little bit in that video too. That's the plan. It's a thing. It was wonderful to see Tiffany yesterday. Okay, so I think I kind of want to fight my natural inclinations. So when I look at this palette, I see these yellows, like these mustards, and I see like green. I really love green. It's been like well documented on this channel that I really like the color green. So I think what I want to do is I either can use like these peachy, like stick with the neutrals, which feels like the boring choice and not the choice I'm gonna make. I'm gonna play with, I think, Mercury, All Star, and Rowdy. I'm gonna do like my favorite eye shape that I do, you know, the big one. I'm gonna use Mercury as my transition shade. Now, if you weren't here in 2016 and you have never seen this palette, or you know, you never bothered to pick it up at a TJ Maxx after it had bombed, the thing was, people complained about the blendability of this palette not being just like modern Renaissance. I personally like never really had the same issues with it. I don't know. I don't know who I'm trying to argue to, like people's experiences with it, or what people's experiences with it were. But I always loved this palette. I just always, like, until recently, I just felt like the color story was still so unique until I got the Antiquities palette, which is like the first palette that I got that was like very close in color story to this palette. I've gotten the comment a couple times in my comment section about my ability to blend, and I'm not like a snob, but I do feel like it's less of a skill and more about two things, like the formula of the eyeshadow you're using. But I have found that whenever I find a very good tool, that is where I see the most success when I'm using eyeshadow as far as blending. Because I'm gonna have to, this is a little bit of a read on the beauty community of the time. Everyone was really pushing Morphe brushes. And I started out with Morphe brushes, so that's what I had. But I got my first Wayne Goss brush around the time that I got this palette, and so I've never really I feel like the Wayne Goss brushes work very well. And I'm not saying that you have to buy Wayne Goss brushes, but I do think that tools are an investment worth making if you can like save up for them over time. Like start with Morphe, start with e.l.f., start with whatever you can afford, start with whatever. But I did find that like when I moved from e.l.f. and Morphe brushes to better brushes, that my blending became a lot better, and it was less about what I was doing and more about what the tool was doing and the abilities of the tool. So I just wanted to say that because it has been asked of me before. So I think that really has a lot to do with it. I would say like seek out a bunch of YouTubers and see what their favorite brushes are. And like I've heard really good things about Rephr, and I know Rephr is like more affordable and they do like sample sales and like things like that. So like that's like something to look out for. Sonia G, if you're feeling real bougie, I've heard like excellent things from her. I'm gonna go to the shade All Star, and I am going to take that a little bit lower than I took Mercury, as I do with this shape. The new lighting situation is feeling very dark today, so I'm using like darker eyeshadows than I typically do. So I'm having a little bit of a vision issue here. I'm not really liking this All Star shade. It's also from looking at the palette, it is the shade I've used the least, seemingly. Because when I had this palette, like when I was using this palette quite frequently, my favorite thing was to use the yellows, actually. Like, I loved the yellow shades. They are like some of my favorite shades. It's not that the shade isn't blending. It's just like not, well, I don't know. It looks more impactful on camera to me than it does like in real life. And I don't know. Next, I'm going to take the shade Rowdy, and I'm going to keep that right on the edge of the curve. But yeah, so like I would often go into the greens and the yellows, and because this is so softly packed, which was like a huge problem for beauty influencers at the time, it's like how fast you pan it and like how powdery and kick-uppy it was. That was like a big problem for people, but I've mentioned on my channel before, but I actually like I like a little bit more of a kick-up than I like it densely packed. That's my preference, and everyone's allowed to have obviously different preferences. I can tell which ones I've used the most because of the amount of kick-up and like the amount of powder that you pick up with your brush whenever you're using the shadows. I can like see the ones I use the most. And you know what? I like never used this Adorn shade. I like never used it. I don't think today's even gonna be the day. Like I don't care to. So I won't. And then I'm gonna take Rowdy on the outer corner of my eye and take it back up into that wing shape that I created. So I would love to hear, do any of you have Subculture? And if you have Subculture, did you buy it when it was released? Did you find it in a TJ Maxx? How did you acquire it? I'm like very curious. And what are your thoughts on it? Or did you ever have it and return it? Did you ever take the time to make your own opinion on it? Because this was like one of the first times, and I've had this problem since, obviously. I talked about it with the Badass Quad from Tom Ford. It's a notoriously disliked product, the Tom Ford Quad. And I was using it this time and I was like, I actually really liked it. And I was like kind of letting other influencers' opinions influence how I felt about it without even taking how I actually felt about it myself into consideration. I'm curious if you like fell in love with it or ended up hating it or whatever you felt about this palette. I'm very curious. I would love to, like, please let me know. I'm just genuinely curious about people's experiences with Subculture. Because I have, ever since I've gotten it, ever since it came out, I've only ever had fond feelings for it. I'm actually gonna take something like this. This is like very fluffy. And I'm just going to take the shade Electric. And people complained about these being hard pan. And I mean, I think they do hard pan, but what I did find is I watched I watched one of my friends using it on her Instagram. And she used very fluffy brushes for this shade and also for Cube. And she was the person I saw get like the best results from it. Although I don't think this one's going to be it today. And I'm pretty sure that these are just supposed to be toppers. So there wasn't like a lot of, I don't think there's supposed to be a lot of impact with them. But also toppers have, I feel like, come a long way, and I feel like we know how to use them a little bit more, and I think like the formulas may be better than they were when Subculture came out. But it's a shame that these two shades really didn't get their time in the sun, because I think they are very pretty. But as I am using this palette today, I'm going to be very honest with you, I'm feeling like maybe I would rather use my Antiquities palette over this. And then I'm going to take the shade Cube and I'm going to use that as an inner corner highlight. That's going to wrap on Subculture for now. We will reflect on our feelings on it later in the video, as we do in these videos. Okay, it is time to move on to complexion. All of complexion is stuff that I've already used before. I'm gonna try the Perfectioniste primer from Surat. And I just think my thoughts remain the same on this. Is like, it feels nice, but I would never pay $95 for this. It's not doing anything for me. That's like not what anything else in my collection can do. So I'm taking in this eye look as time goes, and I don't know where I'm landing. Okay, I'm gonna be using a combination of the Nars as my foundation and the concealer, Born This Way concealer from Too Faced as my complexion for today. I need to wet a sponge. I'll be back, you know, as I do. So this is the Nars Soft Matte foundation. Excited to use it again. It's you know, I think this is the first foundation that I tried in the project. Have I gone through my foundations a second time? These are things I can't keep track of. Okay, and I'm going to use the Too Faced Born This Way concealer. I have the shade Swan 2016 Highlight Honey. Much less concealer than I used to use, but same concept. I can't believe that I was like 25 when I started doing my makeup. 26, 25, 26, whenever I started doing makeup. It truly boggles my mind that, one, I've been doing this for half a decade. I mean, sort of YouTube. I was like on and off YouTube. This was the first year I like really gave it like a good go. And look what happened. All right, I'm gonna do my powdering ritual, my usual powdering ritual with Chantecaille, with Laura Mercier. I actually might just only use Chantecaille today because the Nars is a little bit of a self-setter. It's a little bit, she's not gonna need as much love as some of my other foundations do. So I'm really just looking to blur with the Chantecaille today. I don't think that I need to set anymore. I'm gonna contour with my Rode Dial, another thing that we kind of speed through. For bronzer today, this is like one of the last times I'm ever gonna use this bronzer. This is so weird. I think I'll get one more time out of it. But this is the Burberry Warm Glow No. 1. This is a long discontinued product. To remind and let new viewers know, this is gonna get decluttered at the end of this series, but it still has a couple uses in it. It's a bronzer I've had for 6 years, so it really has had its time in the sun, and it's time to relinquish that time. You know, it's all good. I have bronzers I like more than it. It's not that it's a bad bronzer, but one, they don't sell anymore, which I don't care about. I don't think I need to only use the newest of products because I think that creates that. I don't think that's always good, right? Because you, me, us, people who are not getting sent PR on the regular, that aren't trying to exclusively, like, I just don't think it's like, because that perpetuates like I'm only using these products to sell to you. I'm not using these products because I love these products. So I don't care that it's just like, it's an old product. They no longer make it. I only have sentimental feelings toward it, which is why it's never been removed from my collection before. So it's like, I'm calling on its time. I would probably pretend to keep using it if I wasn't if I wasn't thinking about things like that. I would have just kept using it into perpetuity, even though I would keep buying new things and pushing it out of the way, because it isn't my one true love when it comes to bronzer. And that's that, and that's fine. For blush today, I'm going to be using Paradise Venus from Pat McGrath. Beautiful. We've already used that in this project. Okay, this is finally something that hasn't been in rotation yet. This is from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This is the Iced Out Highlighter. The much hated Iced Out Highlighter. YouTube really doesn't like this product. It's like a cool toned gold highlighter. It has like a beautiful embossing on it. It's just really pretty. I like the compact. I think my advantage to liking this is the reason I feel like I got to have a moment with this highlighter that other people didn't get to experience. I feel like anyone who had tried the Amrezy highlighter was only disappointed in this. Now, I never tried the Amrezy highlighter. So I don't know what I'm missing. The grass could be greener. I don't know that grass. But what I do know is that this was a very interesting highlighter shade to me. I feel like since this highlighter came out, a bunch of icy golds, like Pat McGrath just released an icy gold highlighter that looks very similar to this. So I don't know. I don't have that problem with it that a lot of people seem to have. I think it's a very nice product. But I'm using it today because, you know, Subculture is a little bit cool toned, a little bit icy. I thought they would play well together. And what I like about this highlighter, it has small shimmer particles in it. So like smaller than Trophy Wife, which doesn't have like enormous particles, but like definitely bigger than this. I feel like this highlight gives you like that glimmer and the sheen as opposed to just the glimmer. This highlighter is like the perfect in between from like a very subtle highlight and a very impactful You Can See Me from Space highlight. Like, it's definitely there. It's definitely there more than just a glow from within, but it's also not outer space. I don't see anything wrong with this highlighter. I think if you've been interested in the shade and you think it looks good on me or on other people you've seen it on, it's not the end of the world. You can buy it and feel good about your purchase because it doesn't matter what other people think, it only matters what you think. Because this, I always feel guilty for liking this. I always feel weird, complex feelings about this because of how other people perceive this product. Almost like it makes me feel like I'm not good at makeup or like I don't know what I'm talking about because I like it and other people don't. Like, is it the best highlighter I have? No, you saw I had like 10 Ritual Defy highlighters that we had to get through. Like, that's obviously the formula that I like the best and I like the performance of. That's like really my jam. But this is nice. It's nice. It's nice. And I like it and I'm allowed to like it. And if you like it, you're allowed to like it. And if you don't like it, you're allowed to like not like it. But I don't know why in my brain it feels like a bigger deal than it is for me to enjoy a highlighter. Okay, I'm going to throw some undershadow on. I'm going to use the All-Star shade on the lower lash line. Okay, I'm gonna spray my face, throw on some mascara. I might throw on black eyeliner too, I haven't decided, but you'll see it in a very quick cutscene. And I will be back and we will finish up with a lip. I have a lip product that we haven't talked about yet. This is from Sugarpill. This is the shade Dropout. It is much like Trinket. It has it dries, it has a gold sparkle to it, but it's green instead of pink. I thought I was gonna do a green eye look and then I completely forgot that I had pulled a green lipstick, but I don't think the other lipstick, I think after today, this is like my second to last lipstick. Third to last lipstick. Just like the other one, it has a distinct like tart smell to it. Not like Tarte the brand, like a tarty, like tarty, like tart, the mouth sense. What? I'm a bad beauty guru. My lips are so dry right now. And have I been putting lip balm on them? No, I haven't. Okay, this is the final look. What do you think? Let me zoom you in so you can see the skin. The skin is very matte today because we did use a matte foundation. All right, I'm gonna zoom you out. Let's talk. Let me talk about the look overall. Is this my favorite look I've done? No, this isn't my favorite look I've done. Do I like it? Yeah, I definitely do. It's definitely like different. It's grungy. It's green lips, dark eye. I don't know. It's not bad. It's like just not my favorite look. And as you know, as the tides turn and we keep continuing on in this project, I have less and less ability to pick and choose what I can put together. And so this is just like not the ultimate be all end all. But the only concealer I had today was the Too Faced one, which pushed me to use this foundation because they play very well together. This doesn't really play well with lighter coverage. The other thing I have is like a sheer coverage foundation. And I was like, well, they're not gonna play well together. So that was why I made the choices that I did. My skin is just looking particularly dry, and I don't remember it feeling that way the first time I used these two together. So it could be a combination of like, it's drier outside than it was the first time. My skin is dehydrated, all these other things. This is like, I didn't do my skincare right before this video, which also will affect it. And the primer I used, you know, whatever. Anyway, let's just talk through things one by one. The Subculture palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I think we're gonna have to declutter this. It's not because I didn't like the way it performed today. I actually like the way the mattes look all together. I think they look really good. It's a very cool, deep look that we have going on the eyes. The problem with this palette is that these two shimmer shades are just not it. And while they kind of look like toppers, they're just not impactful enough. I have things from Clionadh. I like really want the razzle dazzle. If I'm going to like take the time to do something grungy, I want it to have like the contrast of like this very dark with like these very intense sparkles. Like that would be my dream scenario if I were to use this palette. Now, I'm wondering if I had used the other shades, like if I had used the yellows, I would be feeling this way, or if I had used the greens, which I really like too. It's not even I didn't like the 3 shades that I did use as mattes. It just doesn't make sense when I'm trying to curate my collection. Let's look at it with the Antiquities palette. While this has less greens, I have a plethora of greens in my my collection, but they serve the same purpose. They are quite similar in color when you really get down to the nitty gritty. This one has 3 shimmers, but I actually don't like the shimmers in this one either. But why I would rather keep this one over this one. One, these shadows also perform very well. If you go back to my first video in this series, I really enjoyed playing with this. The shimmers like left me something we desired, but it's a very similar color story. And I guess I didn't really think about it. I was like, ooh, a grungy palette. Picked it up. It's like the same grungy palette that I already had in my collection. But why I'm gonna keep this one, it is both newer, which is, I didn't think that the performance of this was any different than it ever had been whenever I did use it in the past when I got it, 2017, whenever it came out. This one wins because these pans are removable, and a big part of like what I like to do on my channel when I'm not posting every day, and what I will be doing in the future is I like to dupe out palettes, or I like to make my own color stories. I'm gonna be able to do that with this. I'm not gonna be able to do that with this, and there's just too much overlap for me to have in my collection. So Subculture unfortunately gets decluttered, but I would much rather have this in my collection. I am a little bummed about this. This is like one of my older makeup items in my collection, and I have such a fondness for it because it caused such controversy, but it was kind of like harmless controversy. It was like, we didn't like a makeup item, like there were no people harmed, or no one personally was involved in the downfall of this makeup. It always has made me feel like a badass. I feel like a badass today. Like, I think this is also a pretty great eye look. I look killer. I like how dark it is. I just think a lot of palettes don't really go there. And so it has served me so well over its time in my collection, but it's gotta go. It's gotta go. I have better things, because this has that cube shade and the electric shade. I can do, like, I have Cleona shades that are gonna do like this times 1,000. That's what I'm interested in. That's what I think is very fun and interesting about makeup. So I think this was really ahead of its time, but I think that makeup has caught up, and I can do this palette better with what I already have. My thoughts on the Perfectioniste primer from Surratt remain. It's perfectly fine, but I don't think it's something that I would ever spend $95, and I wouldn't recommend you to spend $95 on it. Perfectly fine. I'm gonna use this up. Like, I will use all of this, but I will never purchase it. This was a deluxe size, like, free sample because I bought something else from Surratt's website. The Nars Foundation. I don't think it looks very good on me today. I think it's like feeling heavy. It's looking heavy. I think that has a lot to do with the primer. I used Bobbi Brown. Did I use Bobbi Brown the first time? I don't remember, but I very likely used I might have used Bobbi Brown or the Urban Decay. So I think this was a primer situation, and I think it's because I didn't do my skincare right before it. It's feeling matte. It's feeling matte, but also it looks good. The coverage is consistent. It's even. Everything lays on it very well. This is really, I think it's like good makeup for what we are currently doing. Like, if I put on more lights, like, I look good, right? I still look good. But it's more about, like, I like to mostly wear makeup for, like, makeup I would wear in public too, or I would want to wear in public. And I don't think anyone would say anything to me if I wore this in public. It just looks heavy for today. And that also goes for the Born This Way concealer, which I have been teetering back and forth on through this whole series. But I do think they play really well together, and I think they look really good together today. It's just matte, more matte than I want. More matte than I want. So since that was my last concealer, I'm taking my concealers out of the OG bin and putting them in the second bin so I can cycle through them again. I talked a lot about this bronzer while I was putting it on, but I'm never gonna see this pan. And that does sadden me, but I'm calling it at the end of this year. So we'll get to see it a couple more times, but oh, my little baby. My little OG bronzer, my little OG baby bronzer. The Paradise Venus blush from Pat McGrath. The more I've worn this in cycling through, like, I think this is the second time I've worn this. This might just be like a color of blush that I'm like very into. This is very pretty. I like it, especially with today's look. It goes. I will say today, I don't remember what foundation powder, like I don't know what the situation that I laid this down the last time I used it, but I will say it was like much more impactful today, like instantly. It's like instantly I saw it and it laid very well and it like really blended out very well on top of everything that was happening today. So maybe because everything is matte, it was like a matte, like a powder going on to matte, already matte things that like just blended out like a little bit different. That was just like an interesting thing that I clocked. Pomegranate blush, we like it. We like Paradise Venus. Now something to really reflect on, the Iced Out Highlighter from Anastasia Beverly Hills. I stand by what I said as I was putting it on. I think it's a pretty highlighter. I like it. I don't know that I would recommend it because like I guess a lot of other people didn't like it, but if you were intrigued by it and you think you would like it, if you like the way it looks on me, it's like a very wearable, like trophy wife type thing for a very light skinned person. Because obviously I don't think this would look very good in deep skin tones. So I'll throw that out there, honestly. Okay, last but not least, the Sugarpill Lipstick. This I like a lot more than Trinket. I think it's more interesting than Trinket. I like that it's green. I also think that I bought this and Trinket at the same time. This formula seems to have like held up better, whereas Trinket felt pretty dry when I was putting it on. And I bought them, they came in the same shipment. And I opened them and have been using them for the same amount of time. So I really much prefer this shade. It's more interesting, but I think Trinket is a more wearable shade, but I don't know what's going on with the formula that this one feels like it's holding up better. That wraps up this video. To reflect on what's left in the drawer, I have 2 highlighters and 2 lipsticks, and then I have enough eyeshadow palettes to get us to the end of the days. So it will be interesting to see where I land and what I end up using with what and how and why. I'm looking forward to that. And if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more videos like this, again, I have the playlist in the description box of this entire series. And if you like my content in general, why haven't you subscribed? And if you liked it, there's a button for that. Like, so you can just like, is that on this side? It might be on this side. I don't know. Are you using a phone? It could be in a plethora of places. And I'm gonna have to trust you to figure that out, to hit that button. I'm also on Patreon if you want to support me there. And remember to follow your haute and you will find me. I appreciate you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.